Well, good morning, everybody. This is Sierra number 52 rail fan, or SERA number sign 52 rail fan. So we've had some pretty significant rain here over the last week, and unfortunately it took out my entire rail yard up here at the end of the line, the east end of my line, which I'm modeling it after the Sierra Railroad. I'm technically using it as my Oakdale yard right now. So this yard is used every day in my operations. This is where BNSF comes and interchanges with the Sierra Northern Railway, G-scale of course. And yeah, you can see the water damage that I've done here. So I actually have these drainage ditches that I've constructed after the fact to hopefully help the drainage in this area, because the natural drainage actually comes down to this culvert that we actually put in right here when we built this yard about 2 years ago. We actually put concrete in there and put some pipes. So, and this is the natural, if you look at the topography, this is naturally where everything drains in this particular area. And you can see here we actually have the culvert coming out, the water coming out, and then it drains on down the ravine there, and actually goes into the little canyon I have below the yard. But yeah, basically right here, this is we've got quite a bit of water damage here. So you can see all my ballast is kind of washed up on the track. The track's been essentially undermined there, where I don't really have any more ballast under the rails, if you could see that. And I mean, all my road base that, you know, is the base that I put my track on is still, most of it's still here. Some of it washed out, you know, as you could see there. But yeah, I had all this dirt, debris, everything run on top of the rails here. And then essentially it ran down the hill and washed all that out. So, in order to put this yard back in service, now that we have a break in the weather for at least a couple of days, I'm going to have to re-level the track and reballast the yard and clear off all the debris. So I'm kind of gonna do a video here of you know, the general steps that I do to do this. So, you know, those of you that are going through the same issues, that have outdoor layouts, or, you know, I'm hoping I can put some information out there that'll give other model railroaders ideas, or obviously viewers are available to make comments, and if anybody else has any ideas that could potentially help me out, that would be great. So this is something that I haven't really done before. I mean, all my videos are, you know, more you know, showing trains, either my model trains or of course the you know, Sierra Northern Railway. But so this is going to be different. It's going to be more of an educational video, and you know, and kind of the process of, you know, what I do to you know, fix my track when I run into these issues, which every winter, every rainy season, you know, I generally have to do a little bit of track work at least afterwards. But yeah, after this last rain, this completely wiped the yard out, which again, this is a integral part of my operation here, so I definitely need to fix this. You know, and I know I've you know, received a couple of comments on my channel that, you know, people compliment my track and tell me, you know, how good a condition my track is for an outdoor layout. And Thank you for those comments, by the way. But in order to do that, it's constant maintenance, just like the prototype. So I constantly have to maintain my track. I at least once a month, I do some sort of maintenance on it in an area that I'm having problem, or that I see an issue. But yeah, this definitely is going to be a good project. That's probably going to take up the majority of my day. So being this is a nice dry day, I'm probably not going to be running any trains today. It's going to be more of a maintenance day. So I'll get started, and I'll see you guys at the next step. Really what I'm going to do is I have to go through and clear off the debris. I have to level the track and then lay down the ballast. So I'll see you in a few. Hey folks, welcome back. Okay, so I've done the first step where I've removed all the debris off the tracks, dug out all the mud and all the gravel and everything that had laid across the tracks and buried it. So everything's pretty well dug out here, as you can see. So kind of the next step now is taking my level and putting it across the track, making sure the track is level across. Obviously I have a bit of a grade here, so it's not going to be level if you're pointing up and down the grade, but my goal is I like to keep my track level across, so that I'm not having trains that lean to one side or the other. It just makes for a smoother run. It makes for smoother switching operations. Especially when you're switching, the key is going to be is you want to make sure that your switches and your points on your switches are level, because if not, that's where you come into problems. Because obviously you could have one set of trucks come off of the main line, go onto a switch, and if it's not level across, if it's especially if it's lower, you have a pretty high potential or probability of derailing, especially when you're shoving a long string of cars. So when I do this, as you can see, I dig out away from the ties on both sides here. Do that there too. And just kind of clear everything out so that I can lay a nice coat of new ballast on there. And like over here, I had a lot of mud run down in here, and you could see the mud there on the main here. Hey folks, sorry, I had to take a phone call, so it kind of disrupted my video. So hopefully I edit it accordingly. But I was talking about mud. So like if you come down here on this siding here, you could clearly see the mud caked in there, and even down the middle of the track. I want to try and get as much of that out as I possibly can. And I mean people may think, hey, if you keep mud in there, it'll kind of keep the track tight in there and it won't move. And while that's true, you do want to get as much of that mud out as you can, because obviously that's going to limit the amount of ballast you can put on the track. And mud can be your friend and mud can be your enemy. Like if you want to work on the track, or say you do some maintenance and your track's not no longer level because of just the elements, it's a lot harder to try and correct that and level it when you have to dig out mud or dig out dirt, because once it hardens, at least where I'm at here in this part of the world, when it hardens, it's like concrete. Like I said, that could be good, but that could also be bad. So I want to clear as much of that out as I possibly can, which I did. I'm sure if it was a little warmer and there was less humidity in the air, I might be able to clear out more, but that will have to do for now. So anyhow, the next step is I just run my level across the tracks, make sure the tracks themselves are level, and then I lay the ballast. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so now I'm to the point where I'm leveling the track, and this is what I mean by saying leveling it across. So I want to make sure that it's level this way, especially on these switches and on these points. So essentially right here where you're on the switch, hopefully you could see the bubble there. There it is. So I want to make sure that it's level here, because again, this is where you're going to have issues with derailments, where you start going through the switches, and if you have one that drops off, that's going to be the issue. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the level and go down every siding and do the same thing and make sure it's level. So that's the next step. That's what I'm doing before I lay down my ballast. And in order to level it, what I'll do is, I've got plenty of extra rock around here, is I'll kind of prop up, I'll tilt the track whichever way it needs to go to be level, and I'll prop up a little rock underneath the tie and make it level, and then I'll move on to the next location. So I normally check about every couple feet, maybe 1 or 2 feet actually. I'll check to make sure that it's level across. And I found that when I've done maintenance before, the track actually stays fairly level, believe it or not. So I'm not too worried about it being so far off that I have to do major work. Not to say that it can't happen, but anyhow, that's where we're at. Bubble. It's not quite as level as I want it. So basically, if I tilt the level, so the side furthest away from me needs to come up just a little bit in order to make it perfectly level. Now, technically, this is pretty darn level, and this is something I could definitely live with. But hey, if I'm able to make this sucker completely level right now, I will. So I'll find just a little rock at this point and tilt the track up just a little bit, like so. Put that piece of rock underneath the tie, and now you look at it, it's dead level. So that's what I do all the way around. So I'll come down, I'll go about this far, check it. Now this is way off here. This is way off. So I tilt this up. Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit to make it level. So I just do the same thing. Find a little piece of rock, put it in, tilt the track up, put it under the tie, and make it level and move on. Okay, I've gone through, I've leveled each siding, made sure the switches and all the points and everything were level across. Some of the track, actually for the most part, especially on the main and on this inside switch track here, it was all fairly level. There was a few little areas where I had to make a few little adjustments. Like I said, just put a little rock under the tie. Sometimes a good thing with the mud is sometimes you just got to kind of move it in the mud and let more mud settle under it, and it levels it. And again, when the mud hardens, it basically hardens like concrete, so the track stays fairly level. The only one I really had to work on was this far outside switch track right here, because water really came through here on this switch track and basically undermined a lot of the ballast that was in there. So I actually had to kind of, you can see here, maybe not, had to kind of lift it a little bit there. It was sunk in because the ballast had completely washed out of it, or washed out from underneath it. So I had to lift it a little bit to make it not only level across, but basically to get rid of the dip. You really don't want to dip in a track, because if you have couplers that aren't exactly aligned, like, every car isn't, you could have the same cars and for whatever reason the couplers sometimes aren't exactly the same height. It might be off just a pinch, but sometimes it's enough to where if you have a dip in the track, for all you railroad modelers that experience this, and I'm sure you all do, sometimes it could be enough to uncouple the car, especially if you're running Cadies. Cadies are great couplers, they stay together. But if you have any bit of an elevation change, sometimes that's enough to just lift them up enough to where they uncouple. So I want to make sure that I get rid of those. Like I said, especially when I'm switching. I do a lot of switching in my operation, and I want to make sure that my yard, especially the yard that I use on a daily basis, is functioning properly. So that's where we're at. Everything's level across. Now the next step, I'm gonna start laying ballast. So what I normally do is, so road base, essentially when I lay a new piece of track down, I put road base, which is just, you know, your basic your basic gravel, just like this, you know, that you use for driveways, at least in this part of the country. And you lay that down as the base. You put the track on top of it, you do your leveling, and then you put a ballast on that. So a lot of the stuff that I use on that is, I use either dry stall or small pumice. So it's kind of like this stuff right here. It's light, but it's very small. So I like to put that down as the finish. It also gives it more of a realistic look, you know, like here you can see here. It looks fairly realistic. Unfortunately, with the shortages we're having in supplies, they did not have any at the hardware store that I go get my stuff from. And same thing with my Connect with the dry stall. They don't have any in right now. And I want to get my railroad up and running, especially if it's going to be clear for the next couple of days. So I got this, basically it's called pea pebbles. You can see that there. It's smaller rock than, say, road base, but it's not exactly as small as I want. But I'm going to lay it down, see how it works. I'll probably eventually get either some pumice or some dry stall, just the real small rock, and lay it on top eventually. But yeah, we'll try it with that, see what happens. So I'm gonna lay some gravel or some ballast, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so this is that pea gravel, they call it. I mean, it's small rock. You know, there's some small rock in there. There's a little bit more bigger rock than I'd like to see, but that's what I'm gonna have to use for today. And like I said, that'll be, you know, if nothing else, it'll be even more of a base, and you know, may even, you know, stabilize the track a little more and pack it in a little bit more, you know, on top of the road base that's already there. And then yeah, eventually, you know, when I either get dry stall or pumice is what it's called, then I'll obviously put it on here to finish it. But for now, to get the line back in service, I think this stuff will work. But what I do is I essentially just take it and it just kind of you know, so like you can see when I pour this stuff, how it pours. So I could either do that, or just kind of shake it around, you know, really put it around, kind of how they would on the prototype. You know, you really work on putting it on the outside. You want to put a little bit down the middle, and make sure that you're able to pack some in there. And what I really want to do is be careful around the switches. So obviously, things like this you don't really want to put on a switch. Good thing about road base is road base has a lot of little fines, and if I've already put that down, generally that's going to be what I put in the switches, or put under the switches. So generally what I'll do when I fill, or when I lay ballast on a track, essentially from about here this way I'll lay it, and then from here that way I'll lay it. I won't put anything there, just because I have functioning switches and I want to continue to make them function. But essentially that's what it looks like when you lay it down. And obviously I have a way that I kind of pack it in later, or kind of tamp it in, and I'll show you that when I get to that step. But for now, this is what it's going to look like. So when I'm done with this step, I'll give you a little update and show you what it looks like, and then we'll work on finishing this thing. All right, hello everybody, welcome back. So I've done the next step. So I went ahead and laid the ballast down. So I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I'm completely happy with this rock. It's a little bigger than I like. I mean, I like the rock itself. I think it looks awesome, but it's just a little bigger. You know, I wish there was some smaller rock in there rather than a lot of the big pieces that it has. I mean, you could see what I'm talking about here. So, you know, of course, my concern is rocks gonna get on the track. I'm gonna have derailments, but I haven't tamped it down. I laid it. I ran my hand across the rail and just kind of spread everything out so it was kind of even. So next, what I'll do is I have a little battery-powered hand sander that I basically run on the track, and it vibrates the track and really kind of shakes everything down in place, which works real great for the small rock. Like I said, with this bigger rock, bigger rock's only going to fit in certain places, but I hope it'll kind of level it down in between the tracks there. The good thing about this rock is it definitely is a heavier rock, so you know, I don't think it'll wash away as easy or, you know, blow away, you know, if we have a strong wind. The bad thing about either the dry stall or the pumice, which again is this little white stuff here, is it washes away fairly easy if you have pretty good rain, and if it's windy, sometimes it'll even blow away. And actually, what I do a lot of times to clean off my track is I'll take a leaf blower and just kind of go along the track and you know, blow some of the materials off that get on there, like, you know, twigs and branches and leaves and other things. So I don't think this stuff will blow away, at least as easily. Again, I'm not real enthusiastic about how big it is. I don't know if it's going to cause me issues in the long run when I'm trying to run trains through here. Obviously, I'm going to have to watch for that and make sure there's nothing on the tracks. And hopefully, when I kind of tamp it down a little bit, it'll level it a little better. So that's the next step. I'll get my sander out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is my little tamper, so to speak. Actually works pretty good. Again, it works with the fine stuff, the dry stall, the pumice. I'm not sure how well it's going to work with this, to be honest with you. It's kind of a test as we go. But what I do is I just run that along the track, and it goes along, and not only does it, you know, clear off the sediment off the rails itself, that, you know, is left on there from, you know, the dirt and the rock and everything else. It vibrates everything and kind of settles everything down into places where, you know, it's essentially tamps everything down. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, I think I'm not sure if I finished my sentence. The good thing about this heavy rock is I don't think it'll wash away as easily, and I think it'll create some more stability for the track. And eventually, I mean, I'm gonna dress it with either dry stall or pumice, just to make it look a little more realistic, and just to create that extra level of protection, you know, and to keep the track in place, and also, you know, that way, you know, hopefully I won't have the issue of these bigger stones getting up onto the track and causing me issues. So I'll tamp it down, and we'll see where we are. So basically, here's how this thing works. So I go down like so. You see how it vibrates everything, and it really levels everything out on the track. So this thing, you know, basically works like the prototype tamper, you know, that you'll see on the railroad after they gravel an area. They'll actually run it, and I mean, the thing will kick rocks out and kind of smooth everything out. And the good thing is, see how these bigger rocks, it just kind of moves them until they Okay, so I got done tamping the yard here, all the ballast that I put down. So that actually worked out a little better than I thought. It did real well tamping that stuff down and smoothing it out, as you can see here. Trying to get down at a real good angle for you. So you can see I just kind of smoothed everything out on the rail, along the rail here. And you see how it really kind of flattened all the rock in the middle of the rail to where there's plenty of clearance now, and it kind of settled it in between some of the ties there, and it did a pretty good job. Did better than I thought. So maybe I won't have too many problems. Again, I still want to dress it once I am able to get my hands on some dry staller pumice, just because it's a little smaller, but I think mixed in with this stuff, it'll just be extra stability for the track. I'm hoping I won't have the washout issues that I've had with the last two storms. This is the second time I've had to do this to this yard this year. No, that worked out well. I'm pleased with the way that turned out. So that's kind of my little educational video on how to fix track G-scale. Again, it's something I have to do a couple times a year at least. And you know, it's just like the prototype. You have to continue to do maintenance on these outdoor layouts in order for them to work properly. Probably the last step I'll do is, you know, now that I've laid the ballast and tamped it down, I'll just do one more leveling, just to make sure everything remained level. And if it didn't, obviously I'll have to address that, but I'll fix it. I'll put a little bit more rock down and tamp it again. And but for the most part, I think it's I think everything's pretty level, and I got a yard here that's now usable again, and it's back in service. So I just got to fix the main line, some couple portions of the main line, especially in my loop there. Got to do a little bit of work in there in order to get trains up here again. But yeah, at least I could start using this yard again. So again, this is how I do things. Maybe I've given some of you model railroaders some ideas on how to maintain and fix track on your outdoor G-scale. If anybody, you know, liked what I had to say, please make a comment. If you have different ideas about how you do things, and there's, because believe me, this isn't necessarily the best way to do it. It's just the way that I do it, and it works for me. But if anybody has any other ideas they would love to comment on and share, please do so. Other than that, keep on liking my videos. Please subscribe. Feel free to share them with your friends. Encourage your friends to subscribe, and keep on model railroading and keep on rail fanning, and we'll see you on the next one.